as well. I'm going to start off with uh, Denny and Lanny's camp, although I was hoping that Yellen and Purdue would show up as well. First of all, let me share this screen. All right, this, you can see it, is the original B team. Oops. They went to Vietnam.
Thank you.
With Lewis here, James Yellen, and Malcolm Purdue. And Lanny joined that team at a slightly later date. The team went originally. Well, let Denny explain what happened to the team.
Well, we started in as a B team, went to Phu Quoc in 3 Corps, stayed until I want to say January or February of 65, and then were converted to, I don't know whether you call it a B- or an A+. It was a specially designed reinforced A detachment commanded by Major Jim Jackson. All of the officers minus Damewood and Stringham were there, and we were sent to Phu Quoc Island in a new role where we were to be a subsector advisory team, no strike force, and the subsector was commanded by a Vietnamese Marine captain named Dai Huy Ai. And then in there we are, Jungdong, which was the district capital. Island shaped like, well, many of the participants here know, shaped like a reverse Latin America. About 30 miles long, 15 wide, in the Gulf of Thailand. I want to say, Steve, in March or April, that mission stopped. It was not a success. And we reverted to a classic A team, reinforced. And I took command of the team. Jim Jackson, Jacobs, Sergeant Major Blennis, Tony Lima, and a number of other people were reassigned to various, most of them to Nha Trang initially, and then out to other detachments in country. And we continued from that point until, I can't remember the month, July, maybe August. And Lanny, I think you joined while we were at Phu Quoc. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
I say you joined when we were at Phu Quoc.
Yeah, Phu Quoc, right, yeah. I went there with Sergeant Major Brennis, and I saw a name a minute ago that I hadn't seen in a long time, Tony Gerardo.
Yep.
He was there also. He was the only one that we couldn't find one time when we were looking for everybody. Frichet was looking for him, and he was the only one we could not pick up on. Frochet found me. And then I forget the other ones. I don't remember who the other people were, come to think of it. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah, it has.
And
Yeah.
my memory isn't very good anymore.
Imagine that.
Well, we had, well, you're not the Lone Ranger there, buddy.
Yeah. When we were trying to find some people before, there was one who was passed away, Davidson, I think his name was.
Bill Davidson.
Yeah,
Yeah, he settled in back in Mississippi, and died 6-7 years ago, I think. So just to pick up in I want to say July, August, somewhere in there, we had a big dust up with the Vietnamese Special Forces team that had come down. We had avoided them for as long as we possibly could, but anyhow, we got one, and they wanted control of the money, the supplies, and the recruitment. Natural for them. We really didn't want to give that up because we had pretty good control over the strike force, which was a mixed bag of Vietnamese, Chinese, mostly Cholan cowboys, and Cambodians. We had a platoon of Nungs, which turned out to be a lifesaver for us. At any rate, things came to an impasse with the LLDB team, and we kind of withdrew to our respective buildings in the compound, and kind of had a standoff. The C team, excuse me, in Canton got into it and reassigned A426 from Phu Quoc to Triton, and the Triton team to Phu Quoc. It was a 1-for-1 swap.
Oh. I
Go
was
ahead,
sent over to Kai Kai. At the time I was there, they would split people up where they felt they were not really doing much of anything, and they sent me to Kai Kai, and the guy from Kai Kai came to Phu Quoc and replaced me. He was there, I think, about 2 months when he was shot. Sniper got him. And then I went from Kai Kai to the TOC Center. They made me the supply sergeant for TOC in Saigon.
Yeah, that was Jimmy Pruitt, the medic who replaced you, who was killed by a sniper on the north of the island.
The way things go.
Yep. Yeah.
Robert, you were with the team at Triton originally. Was that correct?
Yes,
So you were the swap.
yes. And I mean, I was an 05B when I went there.
Well, so was Len.
I had been a 114, but I trained at group, I trained as 05B. So that's when I went, and I thought that I had replaced Barnes, but now that you mention it, I think I replaced Blevins.
What was the swap like from your point of view?
Everything was stable. I mean, the team was cohesive. We got a new LT right after I got there. I went there as a PFC. I had been in the Army for 2 years. By that time, I had transferred. I had a direct transfer from the Air Force to the Army after 9 years in the Air Force. I saw a Green Beret in Okinawa and decided I wanted to do that. And I got a direct transfer from the Air Force to the Army and went through all the rigmarole of 2 years of training and ended up at Phu Quoc.
And the Air Force training got you to be a whole PFC of the Army, huh?
Yeah. It was like, okay, start over. But I was in weapons electronics in the Air Force. So when I had joined the Air Force to be an airborne radio operator, and they told me we don't do that anymore. So I went to weapons electronics. When I finally got to SF, they made me a radio operator. But I thought the team was cohesive and stable. There were some some of the guys were more memorable, others. Tag Attack was our demo man. I don't remember the team leader's name, the team Daiwi's name, but I do remember that 2 days after I got there, he took me out and had me rig some demo. I'm a radio operator, but he had me rig some demo. And so I demonstrated that I knew what I was doing in that regard. And we were short, as I remember, we were short a weapons man. So I was the lone radio operator as a PFC. And I was the junior weapons sergeant.
Did you have any evidence when your team swapped about the trouble the previous team had with the LLDB?
The only thing I knew was that there had been some issues with the Vietnamese military. I didn't know what unit, but that was the only thing that I got from Canto. I had 1 day to read up on their intel before I went.
And we're talking now at around November of 65.
I thought it was later than that, but I'm not sure.
All right.
My memory is not that good.
In November or let's see here, November 65, I have a Lieutenant Chiu at Phu Quoc. And I don't have any Vietnamese assigned to Triton. So Bob, when you were in Triton, was there any LLDB there?
No, I don't remember any LLDB.
And Denny, when you got to Triton, did you no longer have LLDB?
No, we did not.
Okay.
I should mention that the not only were the 2 8 attachments switched, but the LLDB team on Phu Quoc went somewhere else also. And of course, I lost all contact with Phu Quoc from that time on. I don't know who, if anybody, came in to replace them.
Well, I'm showing a Lieutenant Chiu at Phu Quoc. Now, what I should be doing here is bringing in Tan Chow, but we don't have anybody from Tan Chow here right now, so I'll leave that off for a while. Somebody shows up. But at what point, Robert, did you notice the B detachment at Phu Quoc coming in? That would be sometime around October of '66, I think.
I was just, I think that I left before the B team came because I think that around that time, a ranger company brought in and set up a Chu Hoi camp, not far from town and on the other side of town from our A camp. So I probably had gone over to Tung Toi by then
Okay.
on the mainland.
Ray and Anthony, you were both on the B team at Phu Quoc.
Right.
Which one of you was there first?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was there in November of '67. That's when I got assigned there.
Anthony?
November '67.
So you both came there about the same time.
Yeah.
So that, there's nobody covered that early part of the year. So what are your impressions of vacation in Phu Quoc?
Well, it wasn't much of a vacation if you're talking about the LLDB. I looked out my commo room door one day and there was a Vietnamese boy in a cage, dog cage. And he was being held by the LLDB for ransom. He was a rich villager's son. And that was documented and sent up to headquarters before we closed the island down. So
Anthony?
there was trouble with the LLDB, a lot of it.
Anthony?
Well, all I can remember about the LLDB is my counterpart who gifted me with a puppy, which I thought was very nice. I had for a couple of weeks and disappeared. Then he invited me over for dinner, and that's what he served me, my puppy.
Old meat was very strange.
That was a very abbreviated B team, probably less than 5 people on the B team.
4.
5.
There was 4 that I remember. I think I gave those to you the other day when I talked to you, Steve. Yeah. Major Durbin, Andy Aquero, Nikki O'Hara, and me, Ray Williams.
Well, I also remember we had I think Stephen Hickson was a medic. Captain Ronaldo Garcia.
Yes.
Well, I think he was head of 441 at that time.
Yes, he was.
We had Sergeant Major Robert Grisham.
Correct.
I remember someone called him Pappy Hansen.
Pappy Hansen, that was his name.
Yeah, Pappy Hansen, and Sergeant First Class Gonzalez.
Yep, it's his buddy, Garcia's buddy.
Right. But all I can remember, I do recall one incident that was sad and yet humorous. And after an operation where one of our, CIG was killed, and after the service they had dug a grave for him, and they had him in a casket. And everyone is standing around very solemn, and the wife was going through her animations about how she was going to live now that he was dead, who was going to support her and everything else. And everyone was feeling very sorry until they realized they couldn't get the coffin in the grave. They hadn't dug it big enough. And so everyone pushed the poor wife aside, and it became an engineering project of how to get him in the ground. And I just remember that for some reason that really stood out, how this poor woman was pushed aside as everyone suddenly trying to figure out how to engineer the individual onto the ground. But a lot of, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I knew back then, particularly because I had a strong diving background, that boy, what a resort that place could be, Phu Quoc Island. And it is now. If you go online, you can see all the hotels and everything there. And where B-44 was, there's a beautiful hotel, which is in that area right now.
Yep.
The city's still small for that. The best Nuke Mom ever.
Anybody remember our water skiing?
No,
Yeah,
no.
we had a boat fixed up there and right off the beach. I can remember going.
Well, we used to boat. We used to boat a lot. Since I was a young guy, had pretty good night eyes. I was the one that always went out and in the ocean and met the swift boats when people wanted to come visit the island, the A or the B team. And I knew the rocks getting into the cove and the harbor. Is a 20-foot assault boat, military assault boat. And I spent most of my time going between there and Antoy down to the Navy base, the other end, scrounging food. So.
I'm glad to see that was still going on. That started with when we first got there in early '65. There was an engineering team, heavy duty construction team from RMK, International Engineering Conglomerate, and they were putting in long docks, floating piers, and doing some dredging to make Antoy capable of receiving up to U.S. Navy light cruiser class warships. And that was the first indication that we had early in '65 that the buildup was going to start taking off. But the scrounging, they could get stuff that we had stuff that they couldn't get, civilians, and they had a lot of stuff that we couldn't get. And so there was a very active trading operation between the team and the civilians down at Antoy. At the time, there was only a small U.S. Navy advisory detachment there, commanded by a lieutenant commander. Yeah, lieutenant commander with half dozen, 8 NCOs, a very small detachment. But most of our dealings were with the civilians.
Anyway,
Had a couple of notable aspects beside the resort area. It was a center for prime Nook Mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. Anytime we ever went to the mainland, we took Nook Mom. We got Nook Mom all we could carry and take it. So
yeah.
Now, well, you guys that was
You
at
ever
that,
go to the Nook?
you
The Nook
you
Mom
guys that was at that camp early. I was out commo man. I was improving the communications, and there was a commo bunker out there with airport PCP for a roof covered with rocks and gravel.
Yep.
And it had filled in over the years, and I started digging it out, cleaning it out. I found 2 brand new, perfectly good condition, under about a foot of rock and rubble, 2 109 radios. that no telling how long they had been covered up there. And I dug them out, and we we brought them back into the B team, to the D company when we closed the island out sometime in May or June of '68. So I
Wow.
was there when we closed it out.
Yeah.
But I found your hidden stash of radios. Yeah.
The other thing about Phu Quoc was that I guess later on, there was a major prison camp on the island. I think it was not there when you were there.
No.
But before there was a prison camp, there were apparently a lot of VC hanging around the island.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the Mike Force, or the beginnings of the Mike Force and Phu Quoc was sent in to root them out. And Bob Top, who commanded one of the detachments in Phu Quoc for a while, was part of that Mike Force operation that went after to clean up the island. Was that during anybody's time that's here?
That was just before, that was just after I left. They set up, they brought a ranger group in and established the prison for Chu Hois, or whatever they want to call them. And I went to Tung Toi from Phu Quoc as a replacement radio operator, and I arrived just in time for the flood in '66 at Tung Toi.
Okay.
And that bunker, that camo bunker was my home. And it was still functional in '66. I had a Nung bodyguard that stayed in that bunker with me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. We found all your treasures. Yeah.
Well, I got moved, the way they move people around without notice. It was like, okay, there's a caribou coming in, and that's sort of how we got back and forth to the mainland. Was caribou would come in because helicopters didn't like to fly that long, I guess. But we had a caribou come in, and Top said, "Pack your bags, you're going on the next airplane." And I guess Blevins was the guy who came in to replace me. He was about my size, small, thin, and he took my place as a radio man, and we were always short on the A team there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was never quite all put there. So I remember one thing though, they put that camp right on top of the hill. Right next to it was an old French camp.
Yes.
I couldn't figure out why my those bamboo antenna poles kept getting shot off. And I thought, oh, we were on top of the hill, they
Yeah.
got aiming stakes up there.
Yes.
So we always had woodcutters out, just west of the village there on top of that hill, 207 and whatever else it is, 208.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had woodcutters out all the time getting me more poles, and I had a cache of poles up on top of the hill that it got to be, I just go out and pull one out and put a new one in and string my antenna back up and
Yeah.
continue to march.
So
So
who was it? 207? Was it the A team?
no, 207 was where the old French fort was. It was RFPF camp. They had a 4 deuce mortar, and just straight to the west on the top of the other side of that hill, the high point was our camp.
Okay. This is supposedly the B team over here.
No. Oh, well, it might have been, but it was co-located on top of hill 207.
That was, Steve, the place you have circled was the original B team / A team when we went in early in '65. And
Okay.
we set it up in I guess it was a hotel.
Yeah.
It was set up that way. And that's where the camp was originally.
I didn't know that. Okay. Because it was on top of the hill by the time I got
Right.
to November
Yeah,
of
right.
67.
I remember the RFPF fort with the mortars. At that time, they had 2 4 deuces.
Well, we had one. I don't know if they had 2 or not, but I know they had one. They shot it all the time.
Yep.
So, and then we had the other one. So sometime they would get together. We'd both be firing at something at the same time. So, oh, and later on, when the Navy got strong, we had an AM little radio on the same frequency as the Navy, and we monitored them. And every time there was a ship came into Vietnam with guns, they would come by and call us all times a day. Say, do you have any? They was wanting to test our guns. And so they go around all the way around the north end of the island and shoot everything we gave them permission to shoot at. But that was mainly our only support out there. There wasn't a helicopter on the island.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we used the Navy gunfire quite a bit. I mean, just almost daily.
I remember that they had the swift boat guys came up to the camp while I was there. The commander did, and he was talking about fire support, and they had a deck mounted 81 millimeter mortar, and we went on operation up to the north end of the island where there was a training camp, a VC training camp that we encountered.
Yeah.
We called them for fire support, and one of their sailors was killed with a tube explosion on that 81 on the deck of one of the swift boats. Fire support for us.
Well, a little later, there was also a Navy chief. I can't remember his name, but he was in charge of 3 wooden vessels that the Vietnamese Navy had manned, and he was their advisor.
Yeah.
And he had a direct fire 81 millimeter mortar on board of that too, on a wooden boat. and
Called the junk fleet, I believe.
It was a junk fleet, yeah, and we used him extensively also. So we used any help that was the only support we had. No aircraft planes at all was out there.
Right.
So
we had a Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard detachment showed up in March or April of 65, and were based at Antoy. I want to say 4 or 6 boats, and they came there, handpicked crews to participate in Operation Market Time, which was to cut off all the smuggling and infiltration out of the Gulf of Thailand into the Delta. And they were based at Antoy, and we used them just as much as we could.
yeah.
Apparently, the operations that took place on the island worked out quite well, because you closed off in June of 68. And by that time, there really wasn't that much of a VC problem on the island, I gather.
No, there wasn't. No, it had pretty well calmed down. Tet of 68 was our last big hoorah out there. And it was, they shot it up. They shot the camp up. The VC shot the camp up pretty good that night. So there was fire coming from the ocean. There was fire coming from the hills just to the east of the camp. there was fire coming in from just about everywhere. And those 10, there were 10 huts that sheet iron huts that we had to live in. And boy, those things, they got air conditioning after that. Plenty of fresh ocean breezes coming through. So. And then we left probably a couple of months later, I think, something like that, started closing out.
So
It
instead of-
started in April, we did have an operation, I remember, where there was a VC rally, and that was south of the the camp. And we did have an operation I know I was involved with, and Captain again, what was his name that I mentioned?
Garcia?
Yeah, well, he led a group that swift boats that came in from the shore, and I had been sent out there with 3 Chew Hoys and a commo sergeant, and we literally were calling fire in on the actual VC rally.
Oh, we
I
don't.
think it was about April, but it was south of the camp, and the rally took place, and we ended up disrupting that. I was able to direct 4.2 mortar fire into the actual rally itself.
I don't remember you. Is your name Andy Aquero?
Anthony Abbott, Abbott. It was a
Okay, no.
first lieutenant then.
Okay, I don't remember you.
Yeah. Well, my hut was right next to the latrine, underneath the tower there.
Oh yeah, the water tower that we had where we kept water. Yep.
You remember we had a lieutenant who was only there for about 2, maybe 3 weeks, and we had to get rid of him because he had some real problems. In the middle of the night once, he woke up and just opened up on his bunk fully automatic because there was a cockroach in it. And after that, we decided that he had to leave. But I remember being awakened in the middle of the night when he was standing there just unloading on his bunk. Well, he also had a problem that his wife was not receiving combat pay. And so after an operation, he took a VC ear, literally sent it to his wife and said, take this to the payroll officer and say, you should be receiving my combat pay. So that, along with this waking up in the middle of the night and trying to kill the cockroaches, was enough to get him sent out of the camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you for doing this.
Well, I wish we had a lot more. I sent invitations to probably 50 people.
Well, I've attended a lot of funerals. I'm in the SFA, and I was president of the SFA at Oklahoma, Chapter 3250, and I've attended 13 funerals in the past year of mostly Vietnam veterans that we served with. And I had already on the Phu Quoc, I knew of. I've attended funerals of Owen McDonald. He was there. Rick Rose. He was there. McMichaels. He was there. I've attended a lot of funerals of the guys that was at Phu Quoc when I was there. So there's probably not a whole lot of us left.
But the emails I sent out were the people who are alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I've kept up with a lot of them, and there's a lot of them that ain't alive. So,
And we have nobody from the after 68 at Toe Chow. Let me put up this one screen here. Which is tree time.
The only thing I remember about that place is the mangrove swamps.
Jenny, you were here and also Bob,
Huh?
When,
I'm-
when we first went in, there was a plan to build a new A camp on top of the hill. And we ended up, that never, that build never happened, or at least when I was there. We were in one of those PSP huts on the fringe of an ARVN artillery battery base, and the subsector headquarters. That's where we were until I left in November of '65. And it was not where that circle is.
no. Hmm. Let me see if I. Ah, okay. Sorry about that. There we are. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
For that neck of the woods, that's a pretty populated area.
I'm sorry.
For that neck of the woods, that's a pretty populated area.
Yes. Yeah, it was. We were in the I'd not seen a Vietnamese base like that. Not with the artillery in the town itself. But there they were. Yeah, we were squeezed in pretty tight, and no, they until the camp could be built. Group held off on moving a strike force in or allowing us to recruit it. So it was just the team, the ARVN headquarters, the artillery battery, and that was it.
Hmm. I'm looking here at the notes. Bob, you had a cap. Well, that was later. All right, you had CIDG in September of '65. Then you moved to Tree Time, and you got 0. You got a rough buff, about 300 rough buff, but no CIDG.
Mhm. Yeah.
What are these reports here? Now, they really just started to recruit at that point at Phu Quoc.
Hmm.
And even when you left, it was rough buff, it wasn't CIDG.
Yeah.
Those of us who came later, we don't really recognize the fact that the earlier uses of the NUMs were basically security for the special forces team,
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
because later on they all got pulled into the Mike Force,
Mhm.
and they got pulled out of the camps. But at Roger Donald's camp, it was the nuns who protected everything, protect the Americans, and the same in other places. So. Yeah, I will undo that.
When I was at Phu Quoc, and after the Rangers moved their prison camp on island, our Sidges were in town playing cards with the Rangers, the Vietnamese Rangers, and they had a knife fight that turned into a gunfight. And all of our guys came running back up the hill to get their guns. And so we were trying to talk to the Rangers to get their guys so we wouldn't have a friendly fire on both sides in the middle of town. And that was in the summer of '66.
Well. I
Does
don't know how-
anybody else remember that?
It happened again in '67
Okay.
with those three gunboats, wooden gunboats. They,
Yeah,
they,
oh, okay.
they bumped into some of the basic trainees that had just graduated, and they was all full of piss and vinegar. And
Yeah.
the guys on the boats killed about 10 of them. They had those OA-6 machine guns on it, and
Yeah.
they really unloaded on those trainees. So that was a good one that day.
You're talking about the NBA trainee or the BC trainee.
No, there was another A camp out there that I thought did
Yeah.
basic training.
Yes, that was the
Yeah. Yeah.
other team.
Yeah.
So they got into a firefight with the gunboats.
Yeah, they did. And they lost. They lost big time. Yeah. Yeah, we had quite a deal over that when that happened. So yeah. And they added a town generator too. That's why our Claymore wire was always disappearing, and telephone wire on the camp. They'd go down and hook onto that wire, and pretty soon you'd have 10 huts in a row all catch on fire. They were stealing power from that local village generator, and they'd overload it, and they'd burn down 10, 15 huts at a time when they overloaded it. So, some of my memories of the island.
Yeah.
Well, on the email I sent out, there's 2 addresses. So all those people in the addresses there, just about all of them work. They've got names on it and they've got an email. So if you see somebody you want to contact, it's in that. And there really are a lot of people out there. Who was the commander at the B team? The last commander there?
Jerome Durbin.
Durbin.
I spoke to him. I'm surprised he wasn't here. I'm Yellen, Denny Yellen. I found him. I talked to him. I thought he was coming here because he sounded very excited about the Zoom meeting. But he's been hiding out in the State Department for all these years.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
And in fact, in the process of looking for somebody else, I was going through some State Department records for Saigon, and I just noticed his name there. About 1970, he was in Vietnam and wearing civilian clothes. So, he's alive and well. So from your small group, you've got Lanny here and Malcolm Purdue and Yellen.
Right.
And then the team that came to Phu Quoc as an A team in November of '66, that was Harrelson. Jim Krause, who was later 5th Group commander during the Gulf War, He emailed me this morning. He said he was only there for a month or so. So he declined to show up.
Yeah.
But Harrelson is around and a lot of people from that team. And then that team went on, I think that team went on to Tochow and stayed there until about 1970. So all the later history of this team, there's nobody here representing that.
Yeah.
But you got the emails, and I've separated the groups by putting my name in between the different groups in the list. So B-44 is the 5 people above me. Then 441 or 426 and 427 are the next group, and then 442, which includes 428, is the third group of people. So you don't need me to facilitate getting together. But I am moving on through Phu Quoc. I'm working on B-43 camps for Kai Kai and An Long Tung Toi,
Okay.
and that's what I'll be doing. That'll be the next set of camps that I do, and I'll keep going to lower numbers until I finish it, and then I'll be all done with all of Vietnam. I figure I've been at this for about 6 months. I've got about another 2 months to go.
When you do Tung Toi, I'll be on.
Okay, well, I look forward to having you there. That's an interesting camp.
Yeah, we had an uprising there. Yeah, we had to get bailed out by the Mike Force.
Well, the thing interesting most about that camp was that somebody decided that they were going to put 2 radio vans on the berm next to the Mekong River.
Yes.
And slowly those vans began to sink and the berm began to disappear. And the excitement within Vietnam about that event was quite high. You had a lot of people trying to figure out what to do. And ultimately they got some pile drivers from Japan to come in and drive piles into the river to support that berm. And they sat back and they said, okay, we've got it all done. And then they sent some divers down to see what was going on. And the river decided it was going to burrow underneath the camp, behind the piles. And they had ultimately abandoned the camp for the last couple of months that the group was in Vietnam. But you don't think you can control the Mekong River.
Well, when we get to Tung Toi, I have a story about that, the Camo bunker or the Camo van.
Okay, I look forward to hearing it then. Look, I also I have 2 websites out there. One website is specialforcesbooks.com and the other website is specialforcesphotos.com. And on the specialforcesphotos.com, if you have to go up there and register with your whole name, any handles you give me, if I see Dr. Fit, I'm not going to know who that is. I get Russian bots every day on that website and I'm tossing them out. So I've got to see somebody whose name I absolutely recognize. First name, middle initial, last name is probably a good bet. And once you're recognized, which will be every couple of days, I go up and approve people. Then you can go in. There are albums for every single camp in Vietnam, and you can upload your pictures, and you can put a caption there. And you can also if you see somebody else's pictures and you want to note on the caption, I'm the third guy from the left, you can do that on that website. So that website is for photos, and it's pretty much hands off as far as I'm concerned. I will set it up so you can do it by yourself. If you need help, call me, I'll help you out. Special Forces books, however, is a different matter. That's the one with a list of everybody on every team.
Mhm.
And that one is all manual. I'm trying to do it this year because I don't think I'm gonna be around long enough to do it again. So I'll do the best I can and I'll just pay the money. But on that website, if you remember the Green Beret magazines from Vietnam that started in '66, you can get the reprints of those from that website, bunch of other stuff. Lanny is featured in my book on White Star and also on the book on the 7th PDY.
That's Leo's.
So he, you might want to note that. And there's just a lot of good stuff up there. But if you're looking for somebody and is not in the email that I sent out here, give me a call and I'll give you the information I have, because right now my database is pretty good with where people are and what their status is. So for those that may not remember, the Green Beret magazines were these individual covers. I put them in a 5-volume set.
That's nice.
And then the other thing that's up on my website is I just finished a 14-volume thing on the Second Indochina War here. So that's up there. One of the things that I did is I tracked all the SF camps after we went home. And there's some surprises there. Some of these camps lasted a very long time under some very difficult circumstances. In your Corps area, however, apparently you did such a good job that all of those camps were converted over to Ranger elements and shipped out of Phu Quoc. The other corps continue to have border ranger camps in the Corps area. And some of them, like Tangoshan, lasted well into 1974 and survived a 9-month siege in the process.
Wow.
So that was kind of interesting stuff. Because when I got into this, I didn't know what happened to those camps. I just thought we closed down and everybody, they just fell apart. The strange thing is, the LLDB had been cheating the CIDG for all these years that we were there. After we went home, they had to survive. Instead of changing out the officers with Ranger officers, they left the LLDB in the camps. They had little support and little communication because SF had gone and all the airplanes that supported us were no longer doing that job. So these guys actually became leaders of some sort, and in many cases quite good. It was a big surprise to me to see that. But when they were left on their own, and I think the major factor was that when they converted to Border Rangers, they left the LLDB officers of the camp, but they closed down the high command.
Oh,
BC attachments are high command. So I don't think they were sending payoffs up anymore. They didn't have to. And that probably relieved the pressure on them to steal. Aside from the fact there was a lot less to steal at that point.
Yeah.
So that's just an interesting footnote. Well, unless somebody's got something else to add over here,
Nope.
I appreciate you guys showing up. And as I said, I'll be continuing on with Phu Quoc. So if there are other camps in Phu Quoc you want to be included on, just make sure you're on my list at the specialforcesbooks.com. If you're not on the list, give me a call and I'll make sure you're there. Lanny, I'm glad your son got hold of me yesterday and got the information to set you up.
1166.
Okay,
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve. Thank you a lot.
Yeah.
God bless.
Thanks.
All right. That's good.